Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about a comparison between two fantastic budget-oriented rifle stocks for hunting rifles, precision rifles, that kind of thing. And these are obviously going to be on the lower end of the budget, but they're very feature-rich. And I wanted to compare these two. So we've got the MDT Field stock and the KRG Bravo. And so both of these, like I said, are going to be very, very similar in form and function and features. But I wanted to kind of compare those features because there are some differences, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But as you can see, very, very similar for what you get, very similar price points. So come on and join me and we'll talk about all those details. All right, so we're here on the tailgate of my pickup truck. We'll go over all the details here. Not the most glamorous setup, but this is where I can fit them, and that's what works. So let's talk about the rifles a little bit first. This one is my 6.5 Creedmoor. It's got a preferred barrel by Owens Armory here in Chino Valley, Arizona. Arca EP5, 5 to 25 scope, and obviously the KRG Bravo stock in flat dark earth. And I'm running an Ableco Biscuit 30 cal suppressor on that one right now. This one is a factory Remington 700 AAC SD in 308, and I just kind of slapped this all together. These parts were kind of all just sitting around. So right now I've got a primary arms 1-6 on there. Not a super great setup for a 308, but it's kind of cool. I haven't shot it like this. I kind of just threw everything together. And then in the MDT Field stock. So let's talk about kind of the price points on these, where they're different, where they're similar. So first we'll start with the price point. KRG Bravo is about $400 online anywhere you go. Some a little bit more, some a tiny bit less, but really we'll call it $400. MDT Field stock, right around $300. And so about $100 difference, not a big deal when we're talking about chassis and stock systems and that kind of thing. For that $100 difference, I do think you get more stock with the KRG Bravo. So they both have M-lock on the sides here and on the bottom. Hopefully that's still in frame. Yep, that's still in frame. And so they both can take, pick rails, Arca rails, anything M-lock, all that kind of stuff. Very similar in that regard. They're both going to be about 3 pounds before you put anything on them. So 3 pounds, give or take, depending on how many of these spacers you use. So both of these use a spacer system for the length of pull, and they come with a couple of them, and you pull the recoil pad off, put spacers in there to your desired length. So 3 pounds, $300 to $400, M-lock, very similar features. Both have this kind of more vertical precision style grip. The grips are a little bit different, and I'll go over that here in a minute. They both also have adjustable cheek risers where you got a pretty easy to use knob. You just unscrew, slide that up and down. So very similar features, close on the price points. Now, where are they different, and why do I think that you get more bang for your buck or more features with the KRG Bravo? So first, let's talk about the MDT. So it does have M-lock on the bottom. You can see it doesn't have one all the way up here close to the mag well. And I like to run my, I got an Arca rail on the bottom of this one. On a tripod, I like to mount the tripod as far back as I can get it, just for balance, right? I don't want my tripod mounted way out here. It just feels weird to me. It doesn't feel balanced, and then you're reaching way farther out trying to adjust that knob so you can pivot and swivel and that kind of stuff. So I like my tripod all the way up here, and I'll cut in a clip of that, how I like that set up. So on the MDT, what I had to do is buy a big Arca plate like this, and it was actually the same one. And what I did, because on the bottom of those Arca plates, you've got, or for M-lock, you've got little tabs that index into these slots. And so what I ended up having to do on this one was grind the bottom flat and grind off those tabs on this section so that I could put that, I could mount it here and it would overlap and come down to about here. And so that wasn't ideal in my opinion, because where I'm putting the tripod, it is attached to a part of the plate that doesn't even have a bolt holding it on. And again, that's less than ideal in my opinion. Now, when I put that same plate on the Arca, or on the KRG Bravo, there isn't the hole here as well. So it's kind of hard to see, but that doesn't mount to anything right there. Now, this isn't their proprietary version. They've got one that is proprietary that covers this whole section, or you can get shorter ones, and I probably will be getting one of those soon. But this is what I had for the time being. So this does, to me, feel much more stable and just better in general. So I like that for stability, rigidity, and strength. The other thing is the field stock feels much more like a hunting rifle stock. So the fore end here is very narrow. Not very narrow, but it's much narrower, and it is much more conducive to putting a hand on it like that. And so, as you can see, it's pretty comfortable to grip, you know. So if you were going to run this just like a hunting rifle, I think that this fore end may be more comfortable. That, you know, this one is pretty wide and flat, and so when you put a hand on there, I'm banging stuff around, you know, it's doable, but it's much wider, it's much flatter, and much less comfortable. Now, I don't run these like a hunting rifle, especially this one. This one's big and heavy, and it's got a full bull barrel. It's a very heavy setup. And so this one is a tripod gun or a bipod gun, and that's really it. I would really never take a standing offhand shot with that. This one I maybe, especially in this setup with the 1-to-6, it's pretty fast to bring it up and acquire your target. All right, so let's talk about the cheek risers here and what the differences are on these two. So they both use a thumb screw to quick adjust those, which is great. The KRG has 2 metal rods that slide down into a socket there, and there's a clamp that holds them in place. The MDT, this is all one-piece polymer, and you know, that's, again, it's kind of either or, right? I don't think it's too much difference, but I do like the feel of the the KRG a little bit better in my opinion. The MDT is going to have a narrower cheek riser there, just like everything on this stock. It's all built a little bit narrower. The KRG is a little bit fatter, as you can see, just like everything else on the KRG. Now, I like that one better just for the feel of it. Like I said, both of these are well, this one's mostly a tripod bipod gun. This one I may use it like a hunting rifle. We'll see here. One thing I do like is that with the MDT, because of the profile and everything, when you take this bolt out, you don't have to do anything with the cheek riser. So you can get that in and out without having to change anything. Whereas on the KRG, when you slide that out, you have to either drop this down or take it out completely in order to get your bolt out. Not a big deal, but that's certainly a factor. I don't necessarily love to change these kinds of things when you've got it set up perfect, right? I don't want to be adjusting it and moving it around a bunch. So that's a factor as well. Now, these both take AICS pattern magazines, and they both fit pretty well. I've only used Magpul mags in both of these. Now, the MDT has just got this little tab for a mag release, whereas the KRG came with this much bigger profile mag release. And so it's easier to push with just a finger. You may argue that it's easier to snag on something or get in the way, but I like that better for what this setup is for. Now, as far as tripod or bipods go, I run a pick rail on the front there to clamp my bipod on with a QD ADM mount, which this thing is awesome. Such a great little setup to swap back and forth. So that works great on both rifles. That little piece right there too that it came with, that screws into these little threaded inserts, and so a little bit different. It's not M-LOK, but I'm sure it's M-LOK compatible, just that these nuts or bolts thread into those inserts. So now I do think that the KRG is going to be a little bit more rigid on this forend. When I had this one out and I was on my bipod, it's not a lot of flex, but there's some flex in that front end, and it's fine, it's whatever, it's not like a big deal. But the KRG is much more rigid, and I think that's due to them having this big chunky full length aluminum backbone, basically, right? So that's the backbone of the whole chassis system. And in fact, you can take off the rear portion of the stock and put on other KRG rear stock sections there. So in addition, the KRG has an toolless adjustable length to pull and adjustable cant on the butt pad. I didn't opt for those because they're considerably more expensive, but those are some better features that I like more on the KRG. Now, as far as the grip goes, you can see that both of these grips have a pretty fat palm swell, and they're both pretty vertical. Now, I will say I like the MDT a little bit better. For whatever reason, it's big, but it's not as big. This KRG, you cannot hold it like you would hold a regular, like a hunting rifle or anything like that. You are only going to be holding this. Now they say, oh yeah, you can wrap your thumb around it, but you would not shoot this offhand holding it like a regular hunting rifle. You're just not going to. Now, it works great for precision, but that's certainly a factor, right, on what you're going to use this for. And so, in my opinion, like I said, the KRG I think is better for precision guns, bigger setups like this. The MDT I think is better for more of a hunting style rig. So those are just kind of my quick opinions on both of these stocks. When I was looking at both of these, I found videos on both of them, but not comparing them necessarily. So I wanted to do a little comparison video and kind of show you guys the differences. Lengthwise, they're also going to be similar in length. The MDT you can see is a little bit like one M-LOK section longer, but other than that, they're very similar. The KRG also has a bigger magwell, and so this is a bigger, robust area. So again, you're shooting like PRS style matches, you know, you can put that up against a barricade, that kind of thing. Whereas the MDT has nothing; it's just kind of ramped there, and I think that definitely also lends to this feeling more like a hunting rifle than a PRS gun. And so hopefully you guys found this somewhat useful and enjoyable. If you did, go ahead and like, comment. If you want to subscribe, that'd be fantastic as well. All right, guys, sitting here editing video, and I realized there were some features that I didn't talk about that I wanted to. And so one of those is this: on the KRG Bravo, you have this big recessed area, and that's a great spot to put a stick-on dope card. And it's nice and protected because it's recessed, and so it's not going to get rubbed on as much and that kind of thing. And it's out of the way. And on the MDT, there's really not a great spot. That little area right there is flat, but you've got your thumb screw for the cheek riser there, and it's just, I don't know, it's not as convenient. You could always put one on the cheek riser, but again, this is just a nice, clean, easy spot to put one. So the other one, and this is a big this is a pretty valuable feature in my opinion, and that's going to be these sling swivel cups. So the KRG comes with a sling swivel cup and a place to put it, right? And so that's built into the stock right there, and you can take that out and flip it to the other side if you wanted to. And on the MDT, you do not have that feature, and so there's no sling swivel cups, no spot for one. It does come with this sling stud, and in my opinion, there's not much more useless on a modern rifle than a sling stud. I don't know anybody that's still using that style of sling connector. You could always, I'm sure, attach one or drill one or figure out a way, but it's just less convenient for sure. And this is nice and clean, and it's almost totally flush. I did put a QD sling swivel cup right there, just on the M-lock. So again, these are just some extra features, which makes me feel like the KRG Bravo is the better stock for a lot of applications, but it's got more features for sure.